And John, Tiki and Tierney, how are you today?
Good. How are you?
Doing awesome, man. Listen, let's start with Russ, obviously, and let's go back to the Dan Patrick show earlier in the year. He was, running over his O-line a little bit. I thought he was passive-aggressive. I thought he was very disingenuous in the sense, John, that he allowed the story to gain life and really build velocity in the ensuing weeks. We talked about it for at least a week straight, and we were not alone. And not once did he weigh in and say, nah, it came out wrong. It's not true. That's not how I feel. So you heard what he said in the clip, that he's a Seattle Seahawk, and he is for now. But are you fully convinced that wound is repaired, or are you not buying that as much?
No, the wound is repaired. Listen, all my years of covering the league was the most overdone, overrated story I've ever been involved with or witnessed. I mean, again, he went to the Super Bowl, won the Walter Payton Award, sat in the press box or sat in an owner's box with Roger Goodell, and watched what happened to him happen to Patrick Mahomes, in the Super Bowl. Because what ends up happening is, the Bucs went cover two, and that's what the Rams did. And a lot of the teams went cover two against him in the second half of the season, and it affected the offense. And so now here he was holding on to the ball 2.97 seconds and getting hit, and he just expressed his frustration and for being hit too much. I mean, since his second year in the league, he's averaged over 40 sacks a season, and so you can see that wore on him. But fortunately for Pete Carroll and the team, their relationship actually strengthened, and he wanted a voice in some of the personnel decisions, a voice in the hiring of a new offensive coordinator, and he got that. And so, like that, Shane Waldron turns out to be the fit that he likes, because Shane comes in with that Rams 49ers type offense, and he'll get rid of the ball faster. He did get an upgraded guard with Gabe Jackson. He got Gerald Everett at tight end. They've added to their defense, and so everything's fine.
John, let me ask you this, and you lay it out very detailed, very well. That's, of course, John Calyton with us here on Tiki and Tierney. For me, it's because I'm watching all the games. I know you are as well, but I mean, you're diving into the minutia. I mean, even dropping 2.97 seconds on the release, you got the numbers down. That's where you're in Seattle. Whereas we're more a macro view above the league, bouncing around from game to game. My perception might be wrong, but I've always thought that Russ is a little culpable as well. Part of his brilliance is being able to extend the play. But how do we truly delineate what's been a porous offensive line and him just holding on to the rock too much?
Yeah, but also the offensive line last year was probably the best it's been in over 2 years. They improved it. I mean, Brandon Shell did a good job on the right side. Damian Lewis turned out to be one of the better rookie offensive guards to come in there. So the line actually did better. I mean, the problem basically, turns down to is that, he has to adjust a little bit, because obviously, Justin Fields and all that like to do the same thing and move around and make plays when plays aren't there. But now he's got an offensive system that he can, just sit back a little bit, instead of going 7-step drop, go 3, 5-step drops, get rid of the ball quicker. I mean, it's a faster type of offense. It's going to be better for the run game. And, one of the big problems in the second half of the season, and really for the whole season, is that they pass the ball too much. I mean, he was 60-40 as far as pass the run. And that's just not, what the Seahawks do. I mean, they need to have more of a balanced type of offense. And so that's going to happen this year with Shane Waldron and Chris Carson and all that stuff. I mean, they just got out of sync. And, of course, the fact that he did say something. But remember, he stayed quiet for the longest time. And, Pete Carroll, John Snyder, they didn't say anything at all. Yeah. And so it just kind of lingered on, and people wouldn't put it down. People even still now are still talking, oh, yeah, look at this. Is still problems there? No, there's no problems. You can see it in practice. You can see it in the way that he's reacted. I mean, everything is now fine.
Okay, that is John Calyton, and giving us some good stuff there in Seattle. Everything seems to be pretty good. He's with us here on Tiki and Tierney, CBS Sports Radio.
Now, John, we all can remember back those championship caliber, well, first of all, championship winning team, but then caliber teams. It was based on what they were doing on the defensive side of the ball. They were big and aggressive in the secondary. They got after it up front. Where is this team now defensively? We know that they just re-signed Jamal Adams, who plays like a linebacker, even though he's a safety. Some liabilities in the past game, but the impact of Seattle Seahawks defense that we're used to seeing, is that coming back anytime soon in your estimation?
Yeah, it's not going to be anywhere close to 2013. I mean, that was arguably one of the 6 best defenses that you've seen in the league. And so will they be 213? No, they won't. I mean, but they still have a chance to be good. And if you're looking the second half of the season, they did get better. I mean, for example, at the beginning of the year, now they faced some good quarterbacks on bad teams, but they gave up too many passing yards. They couldn't get any pressure on the quarterback. And then next thing you know, they make the trade for Carlos Rogers, and the sacks started coming back. I mean, people tend to forget they ended up finishing with 46 sacks in the second half of the season. They were one of the best sack teams in football, which is kind of amazing when you think about it. Now, they were able to get Kerry Hyder added to the pass rush. It looks like they've got a real good one coming right now in Darrell Lewis, their second-round pick from a year ago who didn't play. I mean, he's had a great preseason and now starting to get to the quarterback where he was getting pressure on the quarterback, but now getting to the quarterback. So, they've added to the defense, and so the defense should be better. But is it a top 10 defense? Probably not.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still, it was a top 15 defense by the end of the season. It should be better.
John, you've seen a lot of big trades, and you've followed and you've scooped a lot of things over your great career. I'm curious, from beginning to end, starting with what they actually gave up to get Jamal Adams and the equity that they gave up there, and then talk about sacks. I know he set a safety sack record, but also the negotiations, what they wound up giving. Like, to me, they had to re-sign him when you give up multiple ones and some other stuff as well. Do you think a smart organization looks smart with everything around Adams from start to finish?
Yeah, I mean, certainly there's still some questions at the cornerback position. That's still a little bit of an issue. But, here they are. They've got 2 Pro Bowl safeties because Quandre Diggs was selected to the Pro Bowl last year. Adams, and really in the NFC West, which I think right now you can argue is the best division in football, I mean, you have to be aggressive. Because if you're a playoff team like Seattle and you're drafting in the 20s, what ends up happening, you get basically guys with second-round grades because you're only going to have like about 18, 20 guys that are going to have first-round grades. In some years like this, it's going to be a little bit less. And so now you have a chance to get a top 6 player who has been to 3 Pro Bowls and could be in the beginning of what might be a Hall of Fame type of career. I mean, he had 9.5 sacks last year. And you look in this division, and the 49ers trade for Trent Williams. Marcus Hudson goes to Arizona. I mean, they had Chandler Jones. They picked up the Rams trade for Matthew Stafford, and they have Jalen Ramsey. And so, in this division, you have to be aggressive. But sometimes, if you just keep drafting in the lower part of in the first round, I mean, you're not going to get those type of star players. They got a star players in Adams, and they ended up paying him big. Yeah.
Looking at their run game, and again, going back to the 2013-14 seasons, it was very much predicated on their run game. Chris Carson, we like him. He seems like he's a steady force in the backfield. Don't know if he's explosive like some of the runners they've had in the past, but without a run game, doesn't that put so much pressure on Russell Wilson? It seems like his biggest successes come in play action when teams are defending both of those sides of the team. Where are they at with their run game, especially after upgrading their offensive line a little bit, obviously trading for Gabe Jackson from the Raiders, etc.?
Well, the run game should be okay. I mean, one of the big issues in the last 2 years, they've had times where they've been down with injuries, 3 running backs. I mean, Rashad Penny's been fighting that ACL injury for the last couple of years. That's held him back. Chris Carson's a physical type of runner, and so you can see that it's hard for him to get 16 games and be healthy. they really look like they made a good move in getting Alex Collins back because he's been really good as far as running the football this preseason. It was really good when he was here, and then he had some off-the-field issues. He ended up going to Baltimore and almost having a 1,000-yard season. So the run game should be better, and it's going to be more of a commitment to the run with the Shane Waldron offense.
Hey, John, when you look at the Lockett-Metcalf combination, where do they rank in terms of wide receiver duos in the NFL, in your opinion?
Top three. I mean, certainly I'd still go with Mike Evans
Godwin.
and Chris Godwin as the best. But, I mean, you can make the argument that it could be number 2 or number 3 because, DK Metcalf is just a stud. I mean, it's amazing to think that he goes to the combine, runs, a 4.33, lifts like an offensive lineman. His dad was an offensive lineman in the pros, and because he had a bad cone drill, he ends up going as the 64th pick. I mean, does that make any sense?
No.
I mean, T.J. Lockett's now, for the last couple of years, ranked in the top 100 on the NFL Network's 100 list voted by the players. And last year had over 1,000 yards, had over 100 catches. I mean, it's a good duo. And now it's a matter of, are they going to be good enough at the third spot because they took a second-round pick who I think can come in there and really help them out. So, like right now, we have 4 wide receivers on the team.
Yeah. Looks like a duck, quack like a duck, talks like a duck. Probably, Hercules, DK Metcalf.
Yeah, but that cone drill held them back, John. Hey, John, you've been around him forever, and his exuberance, his youthful exuberance is. I mean, I'm jealous of it. I mean, Pete Carroll, the spring in his step at his age, is amazing. I mean, how much longer do you think he wants to do this?
Well, he signed a 5-year extension a couple of years ago, so it's like. And he always has talked about Marv Levy and how Marv coached into his 70s. So, I think he might, after this contract, because I think when it goes to 213, 214, that might be it. But you never know with him because he loves this game. He's youthful despite his age in this game. Yeah. But and the fact that he signed a 5-year contract still means that he still wants to continue coaching and coaching for long.
Who wins the division? It's loaded. Seattle, Rams, Niners, Cards are interesting. Who wins it?
I think it's going to be Seattle because, again, they won 12. They've got the best quarterback in the division. They've added to the talent where, I think the Rams are going to have a little bit of a slippage because, to make the Matthew Stafford deal, they're still a top playoff team. But, to do that, they had to put $42.2 million in their cap because they have $20 million salary for Stafford, 22.2 for the money for Jared Goff, and so they lose 4 starters on defense. They lose Gerald Everett. They lose a starting center. They lose Cam Akers to the Achilles tear. I think San Francisco should still bounce back and make the playoffs. And Arizona sitting there with like 8 or 9 wins, they're probably going to be short of the playoffs.
Hey, we've gotten a lot of information from you over the years. I mean, decades at this point, John. You talk about Pete Carroll doing this for a long time, and I'm certainly not trying to date you. I'm just showing respect. I know our audience always enjoys getting a little professor, a little workshop time. So thank you for coming on. We appreciate it, and we're following, we're reading, we're listening. Thank you, John. Thank you very much.
Okay. Appreciate it. Thanks.
You got it, man. John Calyton. Thanks for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe, and don't forget to hit that bell to be notified when we drop fresh content.